Alright, it's about the shortest intro in my career. Alright, we're back. It's been a little bit more than 2 seconds. But I've got a fucking game here. It's supposed to be Phoenix Wright, but it's a realistic experience. Game. I think this is what I need to hit. Alright. Game capture. This thing. Is this gonna fucking do this thing or what? Let's try. Fucking turn on. There we go, that thing. First turnabout redux. Alright. This is gonna be fucking realistic Phoenix Wright. And if that's truly the case, I will fail miserably because I'm not a lawyer. August 3rd, 9:48 a.m., Los Angeles Superior Court, Defendant Lobby number 2. My name is Phoenix Wright, attorney at law. I work at the Fay & Co. Law Office under my boss, Mia Fay. Here's the story. The first case is a fairly simple one. A young woman was killed in her apartment. Simple as can be. The guy they arrested was the unlucky sap dating her. Larry Butts, my best friend since grade school. Our school had a saying, when something smells, it's usually the butts. In the 23 years I've known him, it's usually been true. He has a knack for getting himself into trouble. One thing I can say though, it's usually not his fault. He just has terrible luck. But I know better than anyone that he is a good guy at heart. You want to talk about terrible luck, let's look at Maya. Let's look at fucking Maya Fey. Little fucking spirit medium chick. She got fucking kidnapped in the game that we're at. I own one. That's why I took the case to clear his name. And that's just what I'm going to do. August 3rd, 10 a.m. Los Angeles Superior Courtroom, court number 2. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Court is now in session for the trial of Butts versus the state of California. California? This is a criminal case brought by the state charging the defendant Larry Butts. With one count of murder, the unlawful killing of another human being. This trial will determine whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty, based on the testimony and evidence provided in this case. Are the prosecution and defense ready? The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. The defense is ready, Your Honor. Defense? This is your first trial, is it not? Yes, Your Honor. I'm a little nervous. Your conduct during this trial will decide the fate of your client. Murder is a serious charge. For your client's sake, I hope you can control your nerves. Thank you, Your Honor. Oh, hands shaking, eyesight fading. Well then, does the prosecution have any evidence to submit for inspection? Yes, Your Honor. We submit the following pieces of evidence. The victim's autopsy report. Statue of the Thinker. The murder weapon. The victim's passport. I have no evidence. And a blackout record from the day of the murder. Does the defense object to the inclusive of any evidence presented by the prosecution? Everything seems out of order here, right? And any evidence suspicious or irrelevant in future trials during inspection. You'll want to call the prosecution out on it. Got it, boss. No objections, Your Honor. The court then accepts the evidence into the court record. Evidence has been added to the court record. Tap the court record button to view. With that settled, is the prosecution ready to give an opening statement? Yes, Your Honor. Opening statement, prosecution. May it please the court. My name is Winston Payne, and I represent the state in this case. The defendant Larry Butts and the victim Cindy Stone were dating. Ooh. but had broken up just a few weeks prior to July 31st. On that day, the defendant entered the victim's apartment. There was a verbal altercation as reported by the neighbors. After which he picked up a nearby statue of the thinker and smashed in her head. One blow killed her instantly. You have a witness who saw the defendant flee the scene right after the moment of the crime. The same witness also discovered the body afterwards. The defendant had clear motive, and the evidence clearly points to his guilt. As such, the prosecution asks you find the defendant, Larry Butts, guilty of murder. Thank you, Mr. Payne. Does the defense wish to give their opening statement at this time? Whoa, we get an opening statement? We never get an opening statement! You can choose to give an opening statement now, or after the prosecution completes its case in chief. I recommend giving it now before the judge becomes ingrained in the prosecution's point of view. This one's a bit of a pushover. Got it, boss. The defense will present an opening statement now, Your Honor. Very well. You may proceed. Oh, saving. How nice. Opening statement. Defense. May it please the court. There is reasonable doubt as to whether or not the defendant, Larry Butts, committed the murder on July 31st. While Mr. Butts had indeed broken up with Mrs. Stone a few weeks ago prior to her murder, he harbored no ill feelings towards Miss Stone. In fact, he had gone to her apartment that day simply to see how she was doing. After realizing that she was out, he left the apartment without incident. The prosecution lacks definitive evidence proving that Mr. Butts murdered Miss Stone that day. But Mr. Butts was simply caught up in a series of events. He is no murderer. Because of that, we ask that you find the defendant, Larry Butts, not guilty. Alright. Very good, Mr. Wright. I will never give you that again. Moving on. Prosecution may call its first witness. The prosecution calls the defendant to the stand. What? Is he serious? Object, Wright? Right. Objection, Your Honor. The defendant is under no obligation to testify as opposing counsel has requested. The defense asserts the defendant's right to remain silent. Remain silent? I ain't gonna remain silent. No one can stop me from talking. Bring it on, man. Ah, yes. That's why Phoenix didn't object in canon, because he knew damn well it wasn't gonna work. Well, if the witness himself wants to testify, the court sees no reason to stop him. Objection overruled. Uh-oh. Larry gets excited easily. This could be bad. You have some strange friends, right? Listen closely now. Attorneys generally conduct direct examination on their own witnesses for their case. For the prosecution to call a defense witness is unusual, to say the least. Anyway, opposing counsel is trying to make our defendants slip up during questioning. He's likely going to throw in a few improper questions to trick Larry into hurting his case. As his lawyer, I'm sure you know it's your job to object to these questions. You have the reference handbook I gave you, right? It should be filled in the court record. It contains a guide to the types of objections used to protest objecting counsel's questions. Give it a glance now if you need a refresher. If you're able to prevent the prosecution from eliciting damaging testimony, you'll gain more leeway in the pleading your case. Penalty bar represents Phoenix standing in the court. Each successful objection will raise the bar. Improper objections, among other errors, will lower the bar. If the prosecution's question is legitimate, then press back to move on. Alright. Witness. Objection! Gift from the law. Ask and answer. Leading. Prejudicial. Relevance. Asked and answered. Counsel is asking questions that has already been answered. Counsel is leading the witness to a certain answer. Counsel is asking question to elicit an emotional response. Counsel's question is not directly related to the case. Counsel's question is not clear enough to elicit a concise answer. No. Back. Okay. Makes sense. Witness. Please raise your right hand. Huh? Can I object with this? How do I object? Ah, right. Objection! My client will not tell the truth. He will only lie. So that's why I choose the name of the truth. I do. You may step up to the stand. Direct examination, Larry Butts. Please state your first and last name for the record. Yo, I'm Larry Butts. What do you do for a living? Alright. Next question calls for testimony relevant to this case. Overruled. Answer the question, witness. Bob. I do all kinds of stuff. I'm making statues at the moment, and each one is unique. But let me direct your attention to this piece of evidence. Do you recognize it? Yeah, that's the thinker. It's one of my creations. Let the record show that the defendant identified the murder weapon as one of his creations. Not good. Mr. Butts, were you related to the victim? Bleeding? Fuck. Damn it! I make a terrible witness. Terrible fucking lawyer. We were great together. We were Romeo and Juliet, Cleopatra and Mark Antony. Didn't they all die? Isn't it true the victim had recently dumped you? Judicial? Sustained. Please move on, Mr. Payne. All right. I'm a good lawyer. I know what I'm doing. Let me direct your attention to this piece of evidence. Do you recognize it? Relevant, emotional. Yeah, that's Cindy's passport. You just gotta know what's on the most recent page. Egg. I just got back from Paris on July 30th. Wait a second. Someone else wrote in here. To the love of my life, Cindy, thanks for visiting me, XOXO. Oh shit, I should. What? Dude, no way. Mr. Butts, what do you think of her now? Calls for a prejudicial testimony. Sustained. Please move on, Mr. Payne. Ha ha! Enough with your prejudicial. I will tolerate none of it. Mr. Butts, where were you on the 31st of July? I was visiting Cindy's apartment. Did you meet with the victim? She wasn't home, man. I didn't see her. Thank you, Mr. Butts. No further questions, Your Honor. Mr. Wright, do you wish to cross-examine the defendant? Which I do, boss. This wasn't supposed to happen. Let's just move on. We can push back from a different angle, hopefully. The defense has no further questions for the defendant, Your Honor. The defendant may be excused from the stand. Thanks for nothing, Nick. Why'd Cindy do that, man? Why? Larry, just get off the stand, please. Order! Order in the court! Please call your next witness, Mr. Payne. Prosecution calls Frank Sawit to the stand. Witness, please raise your hand. Please raise your right hand. Objection! He has no right hand. You swear to testify to no. I do. You may accept the stand. Direct examination, Frank Sawit. Please state your first and last name for the record. My name is Frank Sawit. What do you do for a living? I go to the door selling newspaper subscriptions. Do you recognize the defendant in this case? Yes. I saw him fleeing an apartment while I was working at 10 on July 31st. Wasn't he acting strangely at the time? That's leading. Your Honor, counsel is leading the witness. Sustained. Please rephrase or move on, Mr. Payne. Can you describe his actions in greater detail? He ran out leaving the door half open behind him, so he must have been in a hurry. What did you do at the time? After seeing the defendant run away, I looked inside the apartment. You saw something terrible inside, didn't you? Oh, that's leading. Your Honor, counsel is leading the witness. Sustained. Stop leading the witness, you bastard! What did you see? Alright, that makes sense. A woman was on the ground. Objection! Women don't exist. Mia's just fucking scowling. She wasn't moving. Let me direct your attention to the autopsy report. Do you recognize the woman's photograph of the body? No? Yes, she is without a doubt the woman I saw. What did you do after you saw the victim? I went to a nearby park and called the police immediately from a public phone. There were no other phones nearby? Leading? Any witness? Overruled. Fuck. Okay, I'm fucked again. There was one in the victim's apartment, but it wasn't working. I don't have a cell phone, unfortunately. Let the record show that the blackout record corroborates the witness testimony. There was a power outage at the time. Aren't phones supposed to work during a blackout? Yes, Your Honor. However, some cordless phones do not function normally without power. The phone that Mr. Sawit tried to use was one of those. I see. New technology can be quite a hindrance at times. Indeed. Thank you, Mr. Sawit. No further questions. Cross-examination, Mr. Wright. Yes, Your Honor. Oh boy, the pressure's getting to me. Alright, this is it. The real deal. Remember, you're allowed to lead the witness. You're allowed to lead the witness during cross-examination. Think over what the witness just testified about and press them on any weak statement they made. Find a contradiction, impeach them by presenting evidence that conflicts with their testimony. This will help weaken the prosecution's case. Opposing counsel will object to improper questioning. Press the relevant statements. Impeach by presenting evidence from the court record. Alright. Cross-examination. What's your dick size? My name is Frank Sawit. Yeah, this question has been asked and answered. Same, right? Please refrain from the first time. Fuck. Okay. I thought it would give me options. Door selling newspaper subscriptions. Leaving the apartment while I was working on July 1st. You're certain the time was 1 o'clock? Yes. And you discovered the body immediately after, correct? That's right. He ran out leaving the door open behind him, so he must have been in a hurry. The door behind him must have been in a hurry. Isn't a man leaving an apartment a common sight? Well, I don't know. He just looks suspicious. Please refrain from speculating, Mr. Sawat. Yes, of course. Seeing the defendant run away, I looked inside the apartment. The woman was on the ground. She wasn't moving. You couldn't have been sure she was dead, could you? No, but there was a lot of blood everywhere. Victim is, without a doubt, the woman I saw. I went to a nearby park and called the police immediately from a public phone. There was a phone in the victim's apartment, but it wasn't working. I don't have a cell phone, unfortunately. After seeing the defendant run away, I looked inside the apartment. He must have been in a hurry. I saw him at the apartment I was working. It was the day of the crime. I was working at June. He ran. After the defendant ran away, I looked inside the apartment. She was on the ground. She wasn't moving. The victim is that else than I saw. It's immediately from the public phone. Oh, the apartment, but it wasn't working. Did so by being unrelated to the victim or defendant. I was just curious, that's all. On the ground, she was moving. After seeing the defendant run away, I looked inside the apartment. Ran out, leaving the door open in the room, so he must have been in a hurry. The defendant fleeing the apartment while I was working at 1 on July 31st. Ran out the door, leaving open while I was in a hurry. After seeing the defendant run away, I looked inside the apartment. The victim is, without a doubt, the woman I saw. Fairly certain the woman you saw was the victim. Fuck. Fuck. I went to the park, called the police immediately from a public phone. Left without touching anything in the apartment. Yes. I mean, no, I didn't touch anything. Let's see for a second there. Oh, the apartment wasn't working. You knew the phone wasn't working? Yes. You knew despite never having entered the room. There was a cordless phone on the shelf in the entranceway. I reached inside and tried calling it, but it wasn't working. Evidence do I have? Time of death. Trauma. Okay. Mr. Sawat, you swore under oath to tell the truth, did you not? Yes. And he told the truth? Yes. Let me direct your attention to the autopsy report. Can you read to me the estimated time of death? Estimated time of death, 4 p.m. You said that you witnessed the defendant fleeing... You said that you witnessed the defendant fleeing and discovered the body at 10 o'clock, did you not? Yes, I did. Thank you, Mr. Sawat. No further questions, Your Honor. Great job, Wright? Wait, did I say 10 o'clock or 1? All you have to do, point out contradictions. You do not need to accuse the man. Do you wish to redirect, Mr. Payne? Yes, Your Honor. Watch this. I'll try to amend the witness's testimony. Lies always beget more lies. See through one, and their whole story falls apart. Redirect, the time of discovery. Mr. Saw, why do you think the time was 1 o'clock? I heard the time when I found the body. Where did you hear the time? A tape program playing on TV. A voice mentioned the time as 1 o'clock. No further questions. You may recross, Mr. Wright. You know what to do. Redirect testimony added to previous testimony for cross-examination. All right. At the time when I found the body, there was a tape program playing on the TV and a voice mentioned it at 1 o'clock. So the TV was on and running then? Yeah. Contradiction of testimony, I know it. I need to impeach him by presenting evidence from the court record that contradicts the statement. Okay. Alright. Blackout record and present. Let me direct your attention to the blackout record. Tell me, what time was the power out? 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mr. Saw, you swore under oath to tell the truth under penalty of perjury, did you not? Mr. Sawit, the court would prefer to hear an accurate testimony from the very beginning. These constant corrections are harming your credibility. My apologies, Your Honor. Yeah, I seem to have mixed a few details up. It, must have been the shock from finding the body. No further questions. Redirect, Mr. Payne? Yes, Your Honor. Redirect, hearing the time. Mr. Sawit, how were you able to hear the time given there at the blackout? Nope, I want him to ask that question. Actually, I didn't hear the time. I saw it. What allowed you to see the time? I saw the time on a table clock, the one the defendant used to hit the victim. No further questions. Mr. Wright, you may recross. Gladly, Your Honor. Redirect testimony added. Examination. Recross during the time. Hear the time. I saw the clock. I saw the time on the clock the defendant used to hit the victim. Saw this time on the murder? Yes, I did. It's contradiction of testimony, I know it. Impeach him by presenting evidence in the court record. That contradicts the statement. I saw the time on the clock the defendant used to hit the victim. It's one of a kind. Let me direct your attention to said murder weapon. Where on the statue do you see a clock? It actually says the time. Just tilt it, give it a shake, and it'll ask. So you have to hold the clock to have it sound the time? Yes. And you knew this despite having never entered the apartment. Actually, I had one of those clocks before. So you claim you knew this clock because you had seen the same one before? Yes, that's right. Mr. Sawit, I have evidence that points to the contrary. Mr. Sawit, you are aware that this clock was made by the defendant, are you not? Yes. You're also aware that this clock... I gave Sawit and Payne the same voice, didn't I? You're also aware that this clock is the only one of its kind, are you not? Mr. Sawit, you held the statue of the thinker in your hand that day, didn't you? That day, I never. Look, the clock. I heard. No, I mean, I saw. It was him, I tell you. I saw him. He killed her and he should burn. Burn! Give him death. Order! Order in the court! Mr. Wright, please continue. Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Sawit, I'd like you to listen to us sound the clock right now in this court. Beep. I think it's 8:25. Mr. Payne, can you tell me what time it is now? It's 11:25. Has a heart attack. Let the record show that this clock, the only one of its kind, is confirmed to be 3 hours slow. Precisely the discrepancy between what Mr. Sawit heard and the time of death. That will be all, Mr. Sawit. No further questions. I see. Redirect, Mr. Payne? No, Your Honor. The witness may be excused from the stand. The prosecution rests. The defense also rests, Your Honor. Well, this trial has certainly taken an unexpected turn. If both the defense and prosecution rest their case, the court will now move to closing arguments. If you would, Mr. Payne? Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court, the evidence and testimony presented in this trial proves the defendant's guilt. He is admitted to being at the apartment during the time of the murder. As we heard from Mr. Sawit, the defendant fled from the apartment right after committing the crime. The defense has questioned the reliability of Mr. Sawit's testimony, but cannot prove one crucial thing. Yes, the clock may be 3 hours slow now, but this does not necessarily mean the clock was 3 hours slow on the day of the murder. It's simply coincidence that the clock is currently slow. The blackout on the day of the murder cannot have affected it since it runs on batteries. As such, Mr. Sawit's testimony still stands. The defendant went to the victim's apartment, got into an argument, and took it too far. He had both the motive and opportunity to commit murder. The state asks that the defendant, Larry Butts, be found guilty. Thank you, Mr. Payne. Mr. Wright, your closing argument? Boss, it's over. I can't prove the clock was slow on the day of the murder. You can. No one can prove that. Well, yes. That doesn't mean you can't still win. Try thinking out of the box. If you can present an alternate possibility for why the clock was 3 hours slow, you might just have a case. Why the clock was 3 hours slow? Let's take it from the top. In order for Larry to be innocent, Sawit must be. Sawit is telling the truth. If so, on the day of the murder, the clock must have spoken the right time. The clock had the right time. That would contradict the time of death in the autopsy report. There were no inconclusive findings in the medical examination. The court does not appreciate stalling, Mr. Wright. Look. Think, Phoenix. So it's telling the truth. So, then on the day of the murder, the clock must have spoken the wrong time. The clock had the wrong time. This must have been caused by a time difference. The clock could have been brought to a different time zone. What can I use to prove that? Passport. That's right. The victim went to Paris, which means the clock is 9 hours fast. Right then. Mr. Wright? Yes, Your Honor. The defense is ready to present its closing arguments. You may proceed. Closing argument, defense. May it please the court. The prosecution had the burden of conclusively proving that Larry Butts committed murder. They attempted to do so by presenting a witness, Mr. Sawit, who allegedly saw Mr. Butts fleeing the scene of the crime. Over the course of this trial, we have discovered that Mr. Sawit believed the time was 1 o'clock. 3 hours before the murder. We've also discovered that the murder weapon, a statue of the thinker, contains the clock that is currently 3 hours slow. The prosecution claims that nothing proves the clock was 3 hours slow on the day of the murder. However, the victim had just returned from a trip to Paris the day before she was murdered, as shown by her passport. As we all know, the time difference between here and Paris is 9 hours, because that's something we all know. Just offhandedly. When it's 4 p.m. here, it's 1 a.m. the next day there. The clock wasn't 3 hours slow. It was 9 hours fast. Once again, we remind the court, Mr. Sawit was certain the time was 1 o'clock. when it was actually 4 o'clock on the day of the murder. That's the only way to hear the time is to hold this. The only way to hear the time is to hold the statue. And the statue is only one of its kind. With that, we ask the defendant Larry Butts be found not guilty. Thank you, Mr. Wright. I come all the way down here to testify, and look what happens. You treat me like a criminal. A criminal? You lawyers are all slime. Bailiff, restrain the witness. Take him down to the detention center. Oh, shit. I must say, this is one of the most peculiar trials I've ever presided over. Blah, blah, blah. Defendant, please take the stand. Yeah? What? Court has heard arguments from both sides. Deliberate on the testimony and evidence presented thus far. Is prepared to announce the verdict at this time. For the charges of murder, the court finds the defendant, Larry Butts. Yeah! Alright, that's enough of that. Court is adjourned. Turned out that Frank Solon was a common burglar. He posed as a newspaper salesman to check and see when people went out of the house. That day, when Larry went to Cindy's apartment, she wasn't home. After he left, Saw let himself in to do his dirty work. While he was searching her place, the victim returned. She cried out, which the neighbors heard and assumed was a verbal fight between her and Larry. Flustered, Mr. Solid grabbed the nearest blunt object he could find. And so my first trial comes to a close. Larry slapped me on the back and said, "Gee, Nick, it's good to have friends." But I'm pretty sure he's not going to pass. God damn it. Let's count the clock, which he ended up giving to the boss. Who knows how he managed to snake it back from police custody? I didn't know it then. That clock was going to be involved with another incident. My promise to celebrate our win with the boss and Larry would turn out to be one I wouldn't be able to keep. Thank you for playing this recreation first turnabout. This project was designed as an educational experience. Yeah, I'm educated. It's time for me to stand trial as a lawyer using only this as reference. I'm sure that won't go horribly wrong. I don't think they'll let me. By toning down all the wacky nature of the original case while adding elements from real-life court cases, of course, some letters were taken so the overall structure of the case remained intact. Like testimony about the murder weapon, closing arguments, rebuttal, and so on. Real legal procedures were also introduced in a simplified manner, such as opening statements, direct examinations, and impeachment. California mock trial procedures were referenced for these legal aspects. Apologize for any inaccuracies and welcome any feedback you may have. Thanks again for playing. Alright. Credits, Benjamin Shea. Look at all these guys. Look at them, look at them. Alright. Now that's not even slightly as much as I was hoping for. That's an extra hour that I have, but I got shit I need to do, so I guess I'll just cut it short. That was Phoenix Wright, but it's realistic. Fucking Phoenix Wright first turnabout Redux. Played a couple minutes after finishing Henry Stickmin. I'll see you fucking tards later. Goodbye.